Spooky Space Kook is the 15th episode of the first season of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? It originally aired on December 20th, 1969, just 5 days before Christmas. And man, is this a Christmas miracle, because this is considered one of the best Scooby-Doo episodes ever. If you'd like to own this episode on DVD, I highly recommend the Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? DVD box set. At 15 hours packed with 41 episodes and packaged in a Mr. Machine decorated box, this set is a must-buy for you or any Scooby-Doo fan that you know. I'll leave an Amazon link below. The Spooky Space Kook's costume makes an appearance in the live-action Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, and in Scooby-Doo Mysteries Incorporated.
Space Kook.
This episode was also reimagined in the Be Cool Scooby-Doo episode titled In Space. While the Be Cool Scooby-Doo episode does not feature the same monster exactly, there is a resemblance. Anyway, enough of the trivia jibber-jabber. Beam me up, Scotty. This episode begins with a UFO flying over a countryside road and landing. The Spooky Space Kook emerges from the UFO and walks down a desolate road before letting out a sinister laugh. And man, do I love this laugh. Driving in the Mr. Machine down an old country road, the gang runs out of gasoline.
Oh, swell. We're out of gas.
Fortunately, they're near an old farmhouse, so they head to see if they could buy some. At the farmhouse, they're greeted by a grizzled farmer who initially mistakes them for reporters and confronts the gang with a shotgun.
I'm sick of you reporters pestering me night and day.
Get off my lawn.
This might be the first and last time we see a gun in the Scooby-Doo series, but I kinda still need to look into this a little bit more. The farmer explains to the gang that he's been pestered by reporters ever since a UFO and a ghost astronaut have been sighted.
A ghostly craft from another world.
You mean like a haunted flying saucer?
As Scooby and the gang get up to date on this newest mystery, they spot the Spooky Space Kook's glow-in-the-dark footprints off to the side. Daphne exclaims she's never seen footprints like this before, and the farmer explains that he sees them all the time.
Let's us make tracks the other way.
The farmer gives the gang some gasoline and they drive off to look for the Spooky Space Kook. They don't have to drive too far before they see the UFO in the evening sky. The UFO lands behind a hill and the gang drive to where they think it landed. What they find instead is an abandoned airfield, which is a graveyard for old planes.
What is this place anyway?
Looks like it's an old abandoned airfield.
On the ground, they spot more of the glow-in-the-dark footprints. Following the tracks to an old shed, they hear an electronic noise within.
The tracks go into that old shed.
Opening the door, they find a generator, and it is still warm from use. The gang split up, and it doesn't take long for Scooby and Shaggy to run into the Spooky Space Kook. The ghost alien chases them into an airplane where they evade the monster with some clever thinking.
Co-pilot, I got an idea.
Meanwhile, Fred, Daphne, and Velma inspect the airport's ruined machine shop. Daphne comments that everything is extremely greasy.
Ugh, let's get out of here. It's all greasy.
And Fred realizes that this is a clue, as it must mean the tools have been used recently. Unbeknownst to Freddy, the Space Kook has released a hoist and it snags Freddy, lifting him high in the air. Velma and Daphne can't figure out how to get him down, so they run off looking for Scooby and Shaggy.
I feel like a side of beef.
Scooby and Shaggy soon meet up with Daphne and Velma and they release Freddy from his hoist. The reunion is soon interrupted as the Spooky Space Kook makes his entrance. Terrified, the gang quickly split up and scram. Scooby and Shaggy end up at the mess hall where they discover some fresh ham and chicken. Realizing that an alien shouldn't have groceries in the fridge, they head off to find Freddy to tell him about their clue. Before they get too far, they run into the Space Kook and they have to find somewhere to hide fast. Meanwhile, Freddy, Daphne, and Velma, who are outside by an old hangar, find a newspaper in an old barrel. The newspaper is from the day before and it is covered in glow-in-the-dark footprints. It's also an article about the UFO sightings near the abandoned airport. After several more terrifying encounters with the Space Kook, the entire gang gets back together in a motor pool. Underneath a busted-down Jeep, Scooby finds the scent of gasoline overpowering. Velma smells the Jeep and declares that it has been running recently. The Jeep looks like it has 4 flat tires, but looking underneath, they find an extra set of wheels. The Jeep fires up and drives off on its own. If that isn't enough to startle the gang, the Spooky Space Kook leaps out of an abandoned military van. Even more bad news! An army of Space Kooks emerge from additional bays. This is more than enough to frighten Scooby and Shaggy off, so they run up a tower ladder where they find a control room with a microphone and a projector. Figuring out that they've been bamboozled, Shaggy signals for Freddy and the girls to come up to the tower. The ghostly alien beats Freddy and the girls up, so Shaggy and Scooby parachute off the tower to safety. Landing at the base of the tower safely, Shaggy is greeted by the farmer along with the sheriff.
I got worried about you when I saw your car parked by the gate.
The Space Kook makes a dash for it by hiding in a wind tunnel, but is foiled by a clever Freddy who fires up the tunnel and sends the Space Kook's costume flying off. Instead, they find the culprit, just wearing his street clothes. The farmer identifies him as Henry Bascombe, his next-door neighbor.
It's Henry Bascombe, my next-door neighbor.
Back in the tower, Shaggy reveals how Henry was using a projector to emulate a UFO in the night sky. And all the creepy voices were just a laugh speeded up over a loudspeaker. The army of Space Kooks were all just stuffed dummies, and the self-driving Jeep was just run by remote control. It turns out Henry figured out the airport would be reopening and would be expanding, so they'd need more land. His goal was to scare off all the neighboring farms so he could buy the land cheap and sell to the airport for a mint.
And I'd have done it too, if you kids hadn't come along.
I give the Spooky Space Kook a 10 out of 10. With a creepy villain and a spooky atmosphere in the abandoned airfield, lots of jokes, this one is the perfect Scooby-Doo episode out there. Man, is it ever creepy too when the Space Kook sneaks up on Shaggy and Scooby. That scene is epic. Speaking of epic, the Space Kook's laugh is also epic. And bone-chilling every time I hear it. And the design of the skull in an astronaut suit is genius. The glow-in-the-dark footprints has stuck with me for decades since I saw this episode as a young tyke, probably 35 years ago. If I had one complaint, it's that this episode, it doesn't let you piece together the mystery, as you're only introduced to Henry at the very end.
It's Henry Bascombe, my next-door neighbor.
And also, what's up with that remote-controlled Jeep? Like, it's not a UFO. Maybe it was just meant to scare people who wandered on the abandoned airfield. But why draw attention to that airfield with the glow-in-the-dark footprints too? That I never really got. But it's a kid's show, so who really cares? What I love is that this episode is just spooky, memorable, and full of fun. Anyway, that wraps up another Mystery Gang. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to put out an episode once a week. And please, if you have any Scooby-Doo episode requests, leave them below. Also, visit my website. I'll leave a link below as well, too. It's called planetscooby.com. We have tons of videos and episode reviews for you to read. Until next time, cheers.
What is this place anyway?
Looks like it's an old abandoned airfield.